Report.
Everything's status quo, sir.
Very well. If anyone needs me, I'll be in my ready room.
Hello and welcome to the Readier Room, the only longest-running Star Trek Next Generation rewatch podcast. Every week of the calendar year and the fiscal year, we're bringing you an episode of Star Trek Next Generation and all the Next Generation stories that were behind the making of that episode, told by the people who were there. My name is Mitchell Mells, Chief Consultant of Services at Paramount. With me is my partner, Brandon Hobbs. And Brandon, how are you this morning?
Good. I just woke up from a nap, so I hope I can stay on top of my game here.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, great.
Now, shouldn't the post-nap be the best time to do this?
You're all groggy and...
Well, maybe you're groggy.
Yeah.
I wake up from a nap rejuvenated like a Newman.
Like a newborn?
Like a newborn with just as much screaming.
Oh yeah, no, I get tired.
You wake up like a slumbering giant.
Yeah,
and
I'll let out a mighty bellow.
You raise
start stomping around.
You raise your arm up, and the forestation that had grown on it in the meantime shaken off.
I walk up to you and raise my arm up slowly before bringing it down so you can dodge roll.
With how much tracking do you generally have on that?
Better not get behind me.
It's a really good transition into what has been consuming in most waking hours of my life, which is...
And that's pretty ironic because it's D-Trans Awareness Day.
It is. We should detransition into the end of the podcast.
But yeah, Elder Rings.
Elders Sing. I've either been thinking about it or doing it every minute of my waking hours.
I've been dreaming about it.
Oh, that's a new level.
Yeah. It's pretty nuts.
I imagine a nightmare where somebody like holds up a sword to swing it at you and it's like above their head. And you just keep dodge rolling for minutes on end, and the attack just never comes.
Yeah, and then you stop and they bring it down on you and kill you. Yeah, I can't remember the details, but I know how everyone loves to hear about people's dreams.
Oh, it's the best.
It's probably the most interesting topic ever.
I keep a dream journal of other people's dreams. Whenever someone says, "I had the weirdest dream," I take it out of my back pocket.
Wait, hold that thought.
I don't want to forget this.
Do you tell other people's dreams like they're your anecdotes?
Yes.
I had a really weird dream once.
I do that after studying them to not have any holes in my story, but I'll also use that as a portal to, without provocation, psychoanalyze the person telling me the dream.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
at the same time.
Yeah. Which is kind of
not even there.
It's quite the double act, that one.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But it's great because somebody will be like, "Oh, I had this dream where I was running, but I couldn't move. I was just running in place." And I think about it and I tell them, "It's like, I think you want to transition,
or detransition, depending on
the
your
day,
current status." Yeah, yeah, that too. That a lot of people have this one where all your teeth fall out.
I've had that before.
Yeah, I've never had that one, but one of my constant ones is needing to punch someone, but I'm so weak it does nothing to them, and they just kind of like run over me.
I think
I'm in a fight. You know what I mean?
I think this is
this
is indicative of your feelings on gender dynamics.
It could be. It definitely could be. recently I was able to finally, and this was a big breakthrough, I was able to finally have a dream where I took a knife and ran it through someone and killed them.
Now,
Stab them to death.
I've always thought about this. The logistics of, quote, running someone through with a knife.
Uh-huh.
For example, is it like a samurai film? You run them through and keep running, and the knife like passes through them.
Oh, you're talking about the semantics.
Yeah, the logistics of it. Like, what does it mean to run someone through? Is it just a shanking?
I mean, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I just shouldn't have used that word, I guess.
Well, first of all, it's a phrase. Second of all,
Yeah.
you dreamed it, so if you dreamed it, you can do it.
I know what it means to run a train on someone.
Yeah, and that you don't keep running.
No, you don't really do much running at all. Maybe one person in the group does if it's non-consensual, but
I was gonna say you afterwards, depending on the consensual nature of the encounter.
Yeah, right. So one party runs first, and then later the other party runs.
Did you know that that's what the Aerosmith song "Train Kept a Runnin'" is about?
Is that so?
Yeah, train kept a running all night long. Train kept a running all night long. The lyrics. Clearly, that's the content, the thematic content of that.
It's
Aerosmith song.
I'm convinced.
I'll say this about Elden Ring. I think people are largely too polarized on what is ultimately a fine but flawed experience.
Yeah, sure. I think that's fair. I mean, I've spent 101 hours in it so far, and I'm probably going to jump into it right after we finish recording. I'm not going to shower. I'm not going to eat.
Not going to work.
I'm just going to ring. And it's very, very... we've talked off mic about this before, but it incentivizes its open world very well, and it's addicting. But yes, I think there's some fairly glaring flaws with it. That, I mean, the typical, like, it's like From hasn't really done anything to build upon their combat system.
No.
Bloodborne was very good. And even that was a very, very minor change. But I felt it was like something different.
Well,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This just feels like so much like Souls to me, and almost, I think I've seen other people say this. It feels like Bloodborne enemies, and you're a Souls guy. Yeah,
I buy that. I think that Bloodborne and Sekiro both represent meaningful tweaks to that formula.
Yeah, I think so.
Where neither of them are all that different or all that deep, but they play uniquely, and that justifies their existence.
Right.
And basically all of the other ones, and this problem gets worse the later in the series it is, just play so identically to one another. And if in the ways that they're different, they're almost always worse than what came before.
Yeah. And there's this issue now where, okay, the game plays the same, what do we change? You end up getting these bosses that are almost Flanderized versions of Souls bosses.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
They're just annoying. And I think we talked about this too, where the old bait and switch where moves are delayed, kind of. The flag comes up, and then you roll like you think you're supposed to, and then it punishes you, and then literally the next move in the combo does the same thing, and it's just every single move is a delayed attack, and it ceases to be fun at that point, because when you use them sparingly, it's like, oh shit, like it's funny when you die to it, because you're like, they got me. Now you're just anticipating it to happen with every single move something throws out.
Yeah, it's less about having a natural sense for the combat, and more about just getting hit by several moves a few times until you've learned their obtuse timing, and then it's
right.
Then it's the same thing, but it really just takes you out of the experience. It's so transparently there to get you.
Yeah, totally.
And this is all indicative of the problem that these games have grappled with for basically since their inception, or maybe since the second outing, is that I embraced a sense of difficulty as their identity, when I think that's a very misguided approach for
Oh,
the
it
series.
totally is. Because I mean, Demon Souls. I never played the original Dark Souls, but Demon Souls. There were worlds that I'm pretty sure I went through and didn't die once.
Right.
You know, it's just possible to do that, and that's not to say they were necessarily easy. I was scared shitless a lot of the time, but somehow I made it through, and there was no bullshit gotchas or whatever. It was just a normal game.
Right. And it was there.
And it's fine to have that.
The mechanics are punishing, which I think is where this confusion comes from. And I agree, there's nothing wrong with that. But they, instead of that happening organically through the mechanics of the game and how it's set up, it's very artificial in we're gonna alter these enemy attack patterns and put more enemies into one encounter, which is something else that the series has really embraced doing. So many boss fights are just something that'd be very easy, except there's two of them, or there's a bunch of smaller mobs.
Yeah, we get a lot of that in this game. I don't so much mind the two bosses. By the time I've ended up getting to most of them, I'm kind of overleveled.
Yeah, and you have summons in this game to work that out, like AI summons, but when that happens, it's mostly, okay, I put my summon down, they distract one of the guys, I kill the other one, and I kill the first one, and
right.
That's just not very satisfying either.
Yeah. I when there's little mobs, that's honestly, I think that's the worst sin a video game can do, when a boss has little mobs around it.
Yeah.
Or mobs that have meaningful attacks. Like did ROM have mobs?
It did. It had those little spiders. But
but they never bothered me because they couldn't really do much.
Well,
I don't think
the boss was balanced around that. ROM was very I don't know, standoffish. It didn't attack all that often. It only had ranged attacks.
Right.
And the encounter was designed with that in mind. But so much of the time in this game, it's just enemies that exist separately in other places.
They're just kind of transplanted into the same arena.
Right. So there's no effort into the design of it.
You made a point that I think I would take it a step further. It seems like almost every boss in this game is designed around summoning.
Yeah, which is a shame. Because when I play these games the first time, I always do it without using the online component. I mean, maybe I get invaded, but I don't invite anything.
Sure.
And for this, I'm still doing that, but I have found that I need to use the AI summons, which is not as I don't know, it doesn't feel as much like cheating, but it also is a bit of a handicap.
It's less engaging that way. But I mean, you don't really have a choice. You have like Godric, I think. Which I don't even know how you're supposed to beat without summons. He has so many AoE attacks. He has a ridiculous range. Even Margit, or however you pronounce his name, he's so punishing. Like any move you make, he'll punish it. If you don't dodge, if you do dodge, if you roll too far forward, if you jump, he's got like a special punish for each one of those. So
I think that this game having punishing bosses, and the more challenging the bosses get, I think they scale with how at odds they are with the game's design. Because when you encounter a boss that's really difficult, for whatever reason, in most of the other games, you don't really have any recourse. Maybe there's one or two other paths you can explore, but eventually you gotta go back and fight that thing.
You gotta, yeah.
In this game, the harder a boss is, really the more incentivized you are just to come back later and later and later.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You wind up doing so many of the bosses from an over-leveled standpoint, almost incidentally, without trying to. Because you're just never confronted with the necessity of fighting anything until you're ready. So
yeah, that's kind of true.
Yeah, and when you ostensibly want the games to be about this challenge, because that's clearly what they're designing it for. I mean, I don't agree with that, but that's what they want. And you give everyone such an easy get-out-of-jail-free card, then what's even the point of making these challenging encounters?
Yeah, it's weird. And yeah, I guess it's in a way the open world bit is pretty at odds.
Yeah.
Although I wouldn't say it's totally. I think there are positives about it too that add to the formula.
I agree. I've come around on the open world nature of it, where I was initially just extremely opposed to it, but I still think that despite the positives, there are still ways that it clashes with
There's definitely a
the
trade-off.
formula. Yeah, I'm happy they did that. It's certainly better than just the same combat and the same level design.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I say this from the standpoint as someone who doesn't like time wasting open world games very much. I think they're distractions from either playing a good video game or doing something productive. It's like you load up Red Dead Redemption 2 and it's just you role playing as a cowboy for hours on end.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's novel. Don't get me wrong, but you have to be really deranged to think that it's a good use of your time. You know, it's like complete fantasy, and that just never sits well with me. It just feels like a huge waste of time. This game is incredible in its open world. It like everything has a point. It's crammed. It's like full to the brim of stuff. Like you can just set off in any direction and find a ton of crap. And the loop is such that, you know, you find a cave, it's like some random side thing. Even if the boss is easy, whatever, you kill it, you get some loot. Oh, it's something I can actually use for, you know, this boss I was having trouble with or something, you know?
Yeah, the rewards feel meaningful.
Definitely, which is crazy to me.
I'll say a positive. I don't think the caves, those tombs, dungeons, whatever you want to call them, the smaller ones, are typically, I don't think they're all that engaging, but I will say that they've chosen the right average length of them, where it feels very unobtrusive to go into one, clear it out, and get your reward and leave. The length is just right, which when you're doing that as many times, because I make it a point, and I'm sure most people do, make it a point to go into all the ones you find. It doesn't drag, but what I really like about the open world is how many things are, like you said, but how many of those things are novel in some way, or they are somewhat like a puzzle. You encounter something with, I don't know what to do here, I don't know what to use this for, but there's always the sense that, okay, I'll explore more and I'll come back here once I find that answer. So there's just a lot of mysteries and stuff that are interesting to come across.
Like the first time you see a mausoleum.
Yeah, like what the fuck?
And you're like, what am I supposed to do with this? And then, you know, I'm riding around it, trying to figure out what to do. I go to a broken down shack that's, you know, off in the distance, and there's a merchant there, and he sells me a note that tells me what to do with it, which was pretty neat. And I really liked, I've already talked about this with you, but I really like that that stupid troll convoy.
Yes.
That walks up to the castle, and you just massacre them and steal their treasure, which I never ended up using because that's not my build, but pretty neat. But
it also wasn't a useless item in the sense that you can't imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
A use for that. I keep finding these churches. I think, I don't know if it's a church exactly, but you go inside and there's a note that says, "May something guide the way." I don't remember the word, but it's not very clear. And the first time I found one, I'm like, well, I don't really know what to do here. I'll come back later. Found the second one, and now I'm just really confused. And the second one had like a fog door, and when you go up to the fog door, you click on it to enter, and it says, "Must complete puzzle to enter," which is just a phrase I've never seen before in the game.
I've never seen this. What the hell?
Yeah, and it's so enticing. I really want to investigate this and learn about it, but the way to do so also is not very clear. So exploration's meaningful. It's not just follow the waypoint. It's you know, go everywhere and maybe you'll find it.
Yeah, this game definitely makes it a point to not give you any real tools to track things, which I'm fine by. You can put down little markers and stuff. But
Well, I think those are tools to track things.
well, yeah, no, they are, but it's not in the same way that like most games would, give you like a mission list or whatever, and you would interact with that door and be like, solve it would like this mission would pop up, solve the puzzle,
right,
and then it would lead you right to where the puzzle is, like that kind of thing. It really incentivizes, and there's this sense that, and this is why I'm obsessed with the game in part. There's the sense that you're not going to see everything, like you just can't.
Right.
And if you're smart and you stay offline, don't look at guides or whatever. You and I are trading information all the time. You can even go on Twitter and trade information with people or whatever. And it's fun that way. It's like how we used to play video games way back in the day, where we didn't have information at our fingertips, and someone could be completely bullshitting you, and it's fun to figure out what's actually going on. People are still trying to figure things out, and I think that's the experience they always really wanted to make with these games. It sounds like,
yeah,
people just trade it, like something crazy happening to someone, and then it's like, oh, guess what happened to me in Elden Ring? You'll never believe this. And
there's a lot of
it's
story
really
equity in this.
Yeah, for sure.
Games. I think a lot of these games' best quality is the unknowable things about them. It's in basically every aspect of the design. Exploring, even in the more linear games, was always a big part, and there's a lot of things that you can miss just in the environment, but also how the NPCs work and what their quest lines are. It's not clear at all, and you miss a lot of it, but on different playthroughs you do things slightly differently in a different order, or you have different stats which enables different interactions with characters, and you just naturally on the second time find something you didn't before. And it's just so much more interesting than having all that information.
Yeah, definitely. And there's always like those weird obtuse characters asking you to do stuff for them, and then you can't really figure out where they went. In this game, I don't. How do you feel about the NPC quests in this game? Because a lot of the time you'll take a quest somewhere, and then the character will kind of fuck off to another region, and you just have no idea where they are.
That's par for the course in these games. There's more quests in this one just because of the size of it, but it's how it's always been. So I don't have much thoughts on it, but I can
see why it would bother some people. Sorry for interrupting. I can see. I only asked this because I can see why it would bother some people, because there's so much more ground to cover in this game. In the other games, if you were looking for someone, you could run through these mostly linear areas and look for them or whatever. But this one, you can't really do that. You kind of have to be lucky if you have no information on where a character went.
But I think in other games, you have a different state of mind, different approach to it, where playing something, and even another large game like Breath of the Wild, I still went in there and said, okay, I'm going to do all these side quests, and I did, and it was pretty easy to do. It just took some time. I don't think you can look at a game like this and do so with the notion that you will do all of, or even most of, the side quests. I think it's actively detrimental to your experience to aim to do that.
Oh yeah, it's terrible because it's just stressful.
Right. You're
just stressing yourself because no doubt there's definitely some quests that interact poorly with others or something. There's got to be or quests with some ridiculous time limit in terms of how far you can progress into the game at a certain point.
Right. And I'm sure some quests are locked behind things like, okay, this guy, he's a merchant that sells spells. I have to buy a certain amount from him to get him to move to the next area, but I'm doing a melee build and I'm not going to buy these. So it's, once you accept that you're going to miss those things, I don't think it's, I think it's easy to avoid getting annoyed by that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree.
And I think a lot of people's grievances, not a lot of them, there are pretty legitimate grievances, but a number of them stem from them just approaching this game as something that it's not.
Yeah, definitely. People have been conditioned to, and like you said, even Breath of the Wild kind of did this, although it did have that golden poop quest that drove completionists absolutely bonkers.
Which was, wonderful.
Yeah. So even that to a degree, had this sense of like, stop treating this like a checklist.
Mm.
So I did like that about that. This game takes it way further, and people don't like that. People don't, there's certain people don't like that. People don't like ambiguity or not knowing what to do next, because they have this sense of like, oh, everything I play should be relaxing or whatever. But it's like, I just don't play this, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean,
good luck with that attitude when you get to Caelid.
Right, but yeah. Hey, Caelad's rough even for me. That's a scary place. But yeah, I mean, it kind of harkens back to like old the old like Western RPG computer games. It's sometimes shit happens,
Yeah,
things are obtuse. You'll run into an enemy that just beats your shit in, but it's still it's incredibly forgiving. You can go grab your stuff back pretty easily.
This game feels like the closest interpretation of an adventure game that I've played in some time.
Yeah, I agree. It there's that sense of wonder to it.
Yeah, which
and
goes out the window if you look it up.
Right. I wonder if you could take something like this and actually get like a party system going, and how that might end up working.
Like multiplayer?
No. Like just like those old games. You have like a party of like 4 people or something.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
you know what I mean.
That would be cool in that it would make all of the gear more meaningful that you find, but at the same at the same time, it would take away the experience of different players' difficulty waxing and waning as bosses are weak to different things.
They'd have to actually balance the game around it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's true. People would have maybe less unique playthroughs unless you have dozens upon dozens of classes with locked loot. But one thing I do want to say that I absolutely despise about this game is how much it seems to love platforming.
It's terrible.
It's so bad. On foot platforming is really bad. On horse platforming is probably the worst shit I've ever played.
Yeah. When you get to a section where you're gonna have to jump on things, your heart sinks in a way that it doesn't even when you see the largest of bosses.
Right. You can walk into a cave and there's just a giant fire snake in the middle of it, and you're like, okay. Yeah, the minute you see a chasm you have to cross, it's like, well, 50-50 chance I get incredibly mad and start punching myself in the head.
Gotta go
spitting everywhere.
Gotta go spend all my souls because I'm not getting out of this alive.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's definitely an invitation to spend them all.
Oh boy.
Luckily, there's not too much of that, but there's too much, but there's not a terrible lot of it.
Yes.
So
there's a bearable amount. It's not enough to quit the game, but it is enough to quit life.
So, the legacy dungeons though, how do you like? They're pretty well made, I think.
What do you mean legacy dungeons?
Well, that's what people call the more Souls-like dungeons, where you go somewhere and it's like this interconnected.
Oh, it's like a
castle.
Yeah, like a discrete zone. Yeah,
so like the Academy or the Volcano Manor, or the castle that Godfrey is in. Godric is in.
I think those are great. The whatever they refer legacy is a good way to refer to those because they are very much built with that same design process. And I have nothing but good things to say about them.
Yeah, I was worried at first that they would sacrifice some complexity just by virtue of what the game is, but it seems like you get into these areas and they're basically just built to be, like you said, very discrete levels with their own multiple branching paths and stuff.
Yep.
So you can spend hours just exploring each one, really, which is great. It kind of keeps the soul in there.
Oh. He said the soul word. I was exploring the Poison Castle one by the plateau.
I'm just about to do that actually.
It was fun. It's a good zone.
Cool.
And I'm happy those are there. I'm kind of struggling with this because I don't want to just be like, oh, it's like the old thing, so I like it. But one of the strengths of the series has always been its tight level design, and that does remain true here, where parts of the open world don't fit that. I fought one too many large guys on uneven ground where both of our attacks just keep whiffing because one of us is on we backed up to a large rock or something, and it's like, is this really where this fight should be taking place?
Oh yeah, a lot of I'm not going to say a lot of the time, but it does happen with some frequency that the terrain gets in the way of some fight out in the middle of nowhere.
Right, but it is always in the middle of nowhere instead of in those legacy dungeons. So those do their job well of being finely tuned zones.
Yeah, and I think it's nice because they break up the open world action and vice versa. So, you can find these dungeons and say, I don't feel like doing it right now. I want to go explore around the area. And when you're sick of aimlessly wandering around, you can be like, oh, I got to do this dungeon or that dungeon, which is nice.
Yeah, there's always a lot of choices on what to do or what to explore. My map is always full of things that I see, and I put a marker down. It's like, all right, I want to come back here later and see what's up with that, or whatever. And never do I not find myself with at least 4 or 5 different options.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's great because it really does. However you're feeling at that moment, if you're like, oh, I don't really feel like bashing my head against the wall trying to kill this boss, I can go, I don't know, see what this cave's all about or whatever. It's nice. Good pacing choices.
So this week's question of the week comes from Phil Dick from Santa Ana, who says, "Hey Admirals, big fan. My question is, do androids dream of electric sheep? Thanks for everything you do, Phil." Phil, that's a great question, and I wanted to actually ask you this, get your opinion on it. I know where I stand on the matter, being such a controversial issue.
Right.
But I thought it'd be a good opportunity to get your thoughts out there.
Yeah, so this is really fitting with our dream discussion earlier.
Yes.
Do androids dream of electric sheep? I've seen this asked a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It gets thrown around a lot.
Well, in today's world.
Yeah, I guess so. We are living in a dystopia nowadays. Without any of the cool neon lights and Chinese signs, right?
Right, but I do take the time to dream of electric sheep, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're perfectly capable of dreaming of electric sheep. Why don't we take the Data as a case study? He's our resident android, right?
That's true.
Why don't we change the question to, does Data dream of electric sheep?
All right, let me do take 2. Phil asks, does Data dream of electric sheep?
There we go. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, what is an electric sheep?
I think it's a euphemism, isn't it?
See, that's what I was thinking. I mean, obviously, you have the book and there's electric sheep or whatever, but
right.
What does it mean? What does it mean?
Electric sheep is definitely a kind of appliance. Something that kind of has a fluff to it. Not necessarily a cloth fluff, but more of a non-dense mass. And
right.
I imagine you plug it in and it just kind of vibrates around.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's exactly what it does. You plug it in and no purpose whatsoever. It just starts vibrating and sort of jumping around, and it'll fall on its side after a few seconds of that and just continue rattling on the floor.
Just makes that obnoxious noise
Yeah. Which there's a lot of futility in that.
Right. And the question is, does Data dream of it?
I would imagine he does.
Now, do you think this is akin to the ultimately useless top from what was that movie with the dreams?
Beyblade.
It was not Beyblade. It was the one with Chris Knoll. He directed it. It's not.
Wait. When you say useless top, are you talking about the toy or getting head?
Oh, both perhaps, but mostly the former. There's a movie where they're like, "Oh, we're inside a dream. I'm gonna spin this top, and if the top falls over, it's not a dream." This is definitely a movie that exists. By the way,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
it was what the hell is this movie? It's not Insurrection.
Who's the director?
Nolan, Christopher Nolan.
I'm gonna pretend I know it, but really I'm just looking up his filmography.
What is this? Is a large movie when it came out. Everybody was like, "Oh, it's a dream."
It was one of his earlier ones, right?
No, it was maybe 10 years ago at this point. So
Inception.
Inception, that's it. I was thinking Insurrection for some reason.
It's like a Matrix movie,
right? The Matrix Insurrections.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Useless top. Where was I going with this?
Is the electric sheep like useless top?
Okay, yes. Is it like the top from Insurrection?
Wait, so does the top spin or not?
It's a top. Of course it spins.
Well, if it's useless, you called it useless. That would imply it doesn't spin. That's its only function.
Okay, listen to me here, you. Imagine a top just in our world. What use does it have? Okay, I can spin it. Who gives a shit?
It's fun.
Spinning a top?
Listen, there's an entire children's anime franchise based on this.
You and your children's anime franchises.
Hey, I can't help it. We see it everywhere.
We, you, us, children.
We see children everywhere, and I can't help myself sometimes.
I know.
Okay, so if the top does spin, does that mean they're in the dream or not in a dream?
If it spins, I think if it keeps spinning in perpetuity, then they are in a dream, because naturally a top would wobble and fall down.
How would they gauge a perpetual spin? They'd have to stand there for the rest of their lives.
Why do you think the movie's so long?
Because Nolan's a hack. I hated the discourse around that film.
I watched
that came out.
I watched Tenet, and I thought that I was playing Deathloop.
It's just because of the black main characters.
And, the time shenanigans. Well,
and how little fun you were having.
Well, there's that too, but here's the thing. Black people are what percentage of the population?
We're not going to do this.
But the amount of people who have time traveled is so low that when you have multiple black people traveling through time, playing these statistics against one another, the black population and the percentage of time travelers throughout history, it only makes sense to draw parallels.
Yeah, I suppose so. I can't argue with that. Statistically speaking, yeah, it's a little odd.
Right. It's the same thing that, if two people were to land on Mars independent of one another, and they both happen to be the same race, whatever race it was, you would have to be surprised by that, because it's just a statistical anomaly.
Yeah, I guess so. You're right.
I took statistics in university.
Huh. So did I, but I don't remember any of it.
Well, you would do well to remember.
So, does Data dream of electric sheep? I guess if it's about the futility of being a robot, then yes, I'm sure he does.
Well, I hope we can all put that to rest. Thank you.
I'm trying to figure out what an electric sheep actually is supposed to be. I read the book a long time ago, but I don't remember.
Was it about sheep?
Yeah, like there actually is like this appliance called an electric sheep.
Toothbrush?
But I think it's supposed to be like fill the role of a real sheep to a degree. Yeah, whatever. I'm not gonna sit. They made sequels to that book though. Called Blade Runner 2, Blade Runner 3, and Blade Runner 4.
Wow. Maybe they should dream of Blade Runner sequels to fall asleep.
Well, yeah, glad we cleared that one up.
If you are like Phil and you have a question of the week you want us to answer next week on our question of the week segment, you can send an email to thereadierroom@gmail.com. That's with a capital T, 2 capital R's. And if it's a good question of the week, we'll answer it next week. This week,
if it's not a good question, we probably will answer it too.
Oh yeah, you know our standards.
Beggars can't be choosers, huh?
No. But this week, we do have some. We begged for some Star Trek, and we got it. But we did not choose this Star
tomfoolery.
Trek. Yes. I don't know this Tom guy, but he's a real fool.
Yeah. He's just really pissing me off.
Enough foolery, Tom or otherwise.
Deja Q.
Yes, another Q episode, which
much loved Q episodes.
It seems like just yesterday we had the last one.
I know. He really he spent a lot of time with us, didn't he?
Yes. A
little too much time.
So, Delancey's back, Q's back. There's a lot of horseplay. It's kind of the best way to describe these Q episodes. Yep.
a lot of butt play.
A lot of butt stuff.
Cosplay. A lot of butt stuff.
A lot of cosplay. A lot of no costumes.
Yeah, a lot of that.
Overall, I liked this episode, and I think at this point, it's only beginning to suffer from me having seen it as many times as I have.
Yeah. That's a fair assessment. I like it. It's I felt now this might just be me, but I felt like the first couple scenes, whatever direction was being given to the actors was like off. They'd say their lines and they felt stilted. Do
you have an example?
No. I don't know. If you rewatch it, it might just be me, but because I think the rest of that episode didn't have that problem, but
I think
there was something about the way they were interacting in those first few scenes.
I think I'm spoiled because recently, having been watching so much Deep Space Nine, I'm just used to good, competent performances. And it's great.
So I mostly like this episode. It was a funnier episode than we've ever made.
Yes, and a lot of that landed
on silly. Yeah. A lot of it landed. Some of it didn't. And when Trek humor doesn't land, it's like embarrassing.
Yeah, but I think Trek is somewhat insulated from that. And I say this because so much of Trek on several different levels is silly.
Sure.
And it has been for a very long time. So when something overtly or wanting to be overtly humorous doesn't land and it looks silly, yeah, it's not effective, but it's also not so disruptive from, the TNG that produced seasons 1 and 2 with all that unintended humor.
We didn't get any Data slapstick. No camera lingering on Data as he tilts his head and asks some stupid pun question.
Instead, we got a very thoughtful exploration of Data's motivations for his character.
Yeah. Q has some fun interactions with crew that he usually doesn't really talk to. Like, you have some Worf stuff, you have some Data stuff, and it's mostly funny or interesting. Actually has this kind of some emotion to it, which is surprising. I think this might be the first and only episode where Gene's changes to it actually were for the better, because the original script, or at least one of the original scripts that was going around, it would have been Q was playing a trick. He shows up on the Enterprise and he says, "I lost my powers," but nope, it was just a trick. And
how terrible would that be?
right? And so I think Gene was the one who said, "Why don't you actually explore this theme of like losing yourself so completely?" And it worked. It actually worked. And there's no real. It's not mushy, you know. Q gets his powers back, and then he's an asshole again. But you know, he's just a little bit nicer, just a little bit, a fraction.
Well,
and
it's because of the development that he has over the episode. It's not just Q is nicer. It's Q saw somebody sacrifice for him, which motivates him to reciprocate, and it's the direct reaction to the events of the episode, which is great.
Yeah, and I think it's at this point where you start to see Q more as like a almost benevolent.
Yeah, not a villain.
Right. Definitely not a villain that he was in the first couple appearances. Now he's, and you know, especially with this episode, he has so many one-liners.
Yeah.
So he's kind of silly, which is perfectly fine. He's very Loki-ish.
I think he's high key.
You know, I shouldn't have said that. Shouldn't have said that.
It all works well. The performance being what it is elevates the way the character's written in the ways that it needs to. If somebody didn't have the same take that Delancey does, I don't think the script would have been written like this in the first place, because they just never would have arrived at that conclusion. But
right,
it sells it. It takes a lot to go from this guy who kind of looked like some kind of weird clown, denigrating all of humanity for, you know, whatever crimes, to somebody that you want to see a character arc of and kind of smile when he's on screen.
Right. And meanwhile, the whole time literally looking like a retroactive member of Channel Awesome.
It's a proto Channel Awesome right there.
Yeah. And interesting little tidbit before we start really diving into the episode. You'll remember this, but for the audience, this was written by Richard Danis, who this is his first and only credited main writing credit. Yeah. Because he, at this point, he was actually on his way out in, like, I don't know, a week or two or something. They didn't take up his contract. He was only there for 10 weeks. He had like no interactions with the producers or Gene or anything. And one has to wonder if that had an influence on how this episode was written, because it almost feels like a shit post in a few aspects.
Yeah, I can see that, the shitpost nature of it, the irreverence,
yeah, it's irreverent in a way that Trek usually isn't, and that's not a bad thing, of course, like we've already said, but it's just interesting. I really have to wonder what the mindset of someone is who is in that position with a show.
It kind of feels like you're getting away with something, I imagine. You know?
yeah, exactly. Like, if it were me, I'd probably make it even more extreme, but
it's kind of, I think everybody's had this experience in some regard, where you're at a job, but you know when the end of that is, whether you're quitting or whatever. And
so you leave a bunch of projects on the table, and
you just don't give a shit with the last few things you do. You just do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, whatever, Q's silly now. Fucking deal with it.
Oh man, yes. But anyway, yeah, let's go through the episode, huh?
Yeah.
So the Enterprise is responding to some call from some aliens, as usual.
We're really thrilled about this.
The moon is gonna fall on them or something, right?
Right, which and the immediate suggestion of blowing it the fuck up doesn't fly for whatever reason.
Yeah. Like, this is the future, and somehow this doesn't work.
It's what's funny to me is that, just lingering on this very small point, is that blowing up a moon would probably be a cataclysmic event for just about any planet, given how gravity works, tides.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It would totally destroy the planet, I think.
Right, and that's Riker's first suggestion, only to be rebuffed because the fragments of the moon would still fall to the planet anyway.
Right.
And he's like, "Oh,
it's absolutely ridiculous."
Yeah.
I think even blowing a hole in the moon, Dr. Eggman, would probably destroy a planet,
That's
or at
true.
least fuck it up a little bit.
Right, now what about half of the moon blowing up to reveal a giant Eggman face?
I'd imagine that would improve a planet with
Certainly aesthetically.
Right, you can look up at night and see the giant mustache, and I would imagine it would be nicely lit up and stuff.
Imagine, you're traveling for work and you call your wife and you're both looking up at the same giant mustache.
The death egg is very bright tonight. Yes, it is. So they have to solve these aliens problem. They're in constant contact with these aliens on the surface who are, I guess, doctors or scientists or something. Interesting fact: these the two main aliens, they were actually friends of the show. They were from a nail salon not too far down the street. And we'd always talked about how these people, these what you might call actors, had sort of an alien quality to them anyway. So they ended up working out really well because they really didn't need a lot of makeup in their costumes, so it saved a lot on budget, which was nice.
Mostly the robes that they needed.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. Just a little side note.
Yeah. And then Q shows up.
Then Q shows up. Another side note: he shows up naked. He falls on the ground completely naked. And there was a lot of talk about how this was going to happen. There was this idea of like having a wooden board that was out of off screen to cover him up or something.
Right. I remember we pitched the idea of one of the stagehands just following him around with his hand over
and cupping it. Yeah. Which, to be fair, I think Delancey was pretty receptive to, but
brought new meaning to the term stagehand.
It certainly did. It's at one point, and this is kind of what I think landed on. Dan had one of Bob's guys give Lancey this G-string that he'd wear, so obviously he looked naked. But Delancey, in his words, he considered this dishonest filmmaking. So he showed up for the scene completely naked and wouldn't really take no for an answer. And in fact, the whole first day of filming was basically a wash because he wouldn't get dressed again after that.
Right.
He just spent the day walking around the set naked,
which was some of our benefit. Just
it was quite the view.
Delancey and repose, as it were.
I'd love to use Delancey as a nude model.
I'd just love to use Delancey.
I'd love to use Delancey nude.
I remember. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna remark just tangentially that he didn't bring many costumes with him this time.
No, I think he learned that we'd have stuff prepared. But how about this? I'll mark and you can remark. So anyway,
okay.
Yes. This is that was one of many days of shooting that was actually at night. So Delancey is going through this kind of nocturnal phase.
Yeah, right.
I think everyone as a teenager probably has that, where it's like, I'm just gonna stay up all night, and
yeah.
And because you're a teenager, you can actually do that without dying,
feeling like trash.
Yeah. But we kind of gave him free reign because we wanted the actors to show a natural contempt for Q, which came across very, very well in the shooting because everybody ended up being dragged there at whatever hour of the night that Delancey wanted to film. And when they knew that it was Delancey calling the shots, it's kind of hard not to have the fire in your eyes when you're looking at him, even in character. So it worked well.
Yeah.
Now, to this day, the cast's relations with John are still strained, but the product that speaks for
Oh,
itself.
it was great.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah, it's a prime example of how method acting can really, you got your Heath Ledgers,
Right.
your Christian Bales, and Delancey's up there with the best of them.
Right, and your Cillian Murphys.
Your Stoic and Murphys too.
Your Gary Oldman.
Gary Youngman.
Was anybody else?
Let's keep going. Let's keep this going.
Was anybody else in the Dark Knight?
Oh, like the film, not.
Yeah, I mean
not just...
it's morning right now.
No, I think those are the only actors that were in that film.
Okay. No, there was also the guy from Thank You for Smoking. You ever see this movie?
Never watched Thank You for Smoking. I remember the ads for it, but I don't remember who's in it.
Aaron Eckhart.
Aaron Eckhart.
Yeah, he played Double Face. Not in Thank You for Smoking.
Oh yes, that's right. Yes, I do remember now. He was in that movie. Yes.
Yes.
If I don't know, if an actor's not in a fantasy sci-fi film for children, I don't know them.
Did you know that initially that role of the Joker in that film, they were eyeing John Delancey for the role?
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, they thought that he really looked the part. Like they wouldn't need to give him that much makeup for the scars and the weird mouth.
Right.
So
he's good at playing a trickster too. He is a trickster in real life.
Yeah, he just kind of looks like vaguely psychopathic.
It would be a lot like what Jared Leto tried to do, where he was mailing like shit to people or something on the cast. Remember that?
I do remember that.
Like he would just do something completely benign, and everyone for the press had to be like, oh, he's crazy.
It's like, oh, he left a dead rat at my trailer.
Right. As if that's not just disgusting.
Right. And I think everyone's talked this point to death, but it's just so funny to me that when you method act in that way, the implication is that the Joker has nothing better to do than just mildly, vandalize some film set.
Right. I love how Heath Ledger's performance absolutely mind broke every single Joker after him. Which I guess has only been one, but there's gonna be more.
The Curse of the Joker.
Yeah, that's like a Batman animated movie. The Curse of the Joker. One of those animated films for quote adults.
Right, the dark ones.
Batman, The Curse of the Joker, and like Batman cuts off someone's arm and it bleeds profusely everywhere. Batman has sex.
It's a darker Batman than we've had before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, much like that new one that's coming out, or that is out.
With Ben Affleck.
With Robert Pattinson.
Oh, they made another one?
Yeah.
Jesus. I haven't seen Robert Pattinson since The Lighthouse, and I guess at this point that was like 3 years ago.
Yeah. He's a good actor.
Yeah, I really enjoyed
Surprisingly.
I really enjoyed his work in Twilight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I usually watched it, muted and more of a still photograph of him without a shirt, but it was good work.
I watched it with my pants off.
That's the way to do it.
Looking to it.
Schlick. All right.
Looking to Robert Pattinson.
Let's clear this up. Let's clear the air right now. Are you Team Edward or Team Jacob?
I don't know, and it's funny because I actually watched all of these movies.
Really?
And I don't remember them at all. At one point, I had them on Blu-ray.
This is amazing.
And then I looked at them on my shelf.
Do you want me
one
to?
day.
Do you want me to bleep this out after in editing?
I don't know, if you're gonna call me a slur, then you should bleep that out.
I would never, ever.
Yeah. Yeah. One day I looked at them on my shelf and I was like, I can't. I threw them all away.
You had a temporary moment of sanity.
Yeah. I would say I'm Team Edward. Team Edward, not Team N-word.
I was going to ask.
I kind of slurred that.
That's more of a Freudian slip, I believe.
I don't know. They're both weird, right?
I mean, they're both monsters, sure. You have a Dracula and a Wolfman.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
I think that qualifies as weird.
I feel like Jacob was Oh, you know what happens? Jacob tries to fuck their eventual daughter.
Right. I you know,
like when she's a baby.
She imprints on him, or he imprints on
Yeah,
her.
which is the grossest way to phrase anything. I don't know what imprinting means. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of mushroom stamping.
Sorry?
Mushroom stamp, like when you whip your member out and you slap someone on the face so hard it looks like a mushroom.
Like it leaves a mark?
Yeah, it leaves like a mushroom mark.
Is this something? Is this a real thing, or is this just what you do?
I didn't make this up.
Is this this is apocryphal at best?
You look it up on Urban Dictionary, and I didn't make the entry. You whack someone with it so hard that it leaves like a red mark and it looks like a mushroom, but you have to whack it with the underside of it, basically, so it takes on that mushroom, that fungal shape.
I feel like it would need more elasticity, or rather, not be fully hard to kind of get that wind up, and then it slaps down. Yeah,
you definitely need to be a shower,
right,
to be able to do it.
I guess my poor grower mind could never conceptualize what's happening here.
Yeah, I think that's not to say that I can't relate to you, but I think that's what's going on here.
All right.
But yeah, imprinting, it leaves either that image in my mind, or like he's pissing on her.
Right. Marking his territory.
Right, like getting his musk all over her.
Musk is a gross word.
It is, yeah, and it's unfortunate that that can be a surname, apparently.
What is that? A new knight surname?
The surname Musk.
I must ask you a question.
Nice. That's what you should do that to Elon next time we see him.
Yeah, I've gotten plenty of mileage out of his name for jokes to his face.
Yeah.
Like
he pretends to like it.
Take the long way home, Musk.
Yeah, that's bad.
He did pretend to like it. You do anything to please the investors.
Right. Yeah, and he's got that soft spot for TNG as well. So right. we're kind of his connection to the show, really.
That's why he tolerates us.
Yeah. We make the magic happen. If anyone's wondering if there's going to be a real Enterprise in the future, I say give it 50 years.
Now, is this a ship or like a marketing venture?
That's pretty good.
Thank you. I've forgotten so Q's on the ship?
Q's on the ship, yeah. He lands naked on the ship. The intro plays. And then when we come back, they have clothed him, and he's complaining about how it doesn't suit him.
Right. It is true. It's not a suit that he's wearing.
It's a jumpsuit.
Right. It's more of a onesie with with a crotch prosthetic.
I'm not gonna lie, it looks kind of comfy.
I don't like. If I had to adjust down there, it seems the access is difficult.
Yeah, I wouldn't appreciate that very much.
So I'm less. I've always
wondered.
Yeah,
I've always wondered what it's like to have to go to the bathroom when you're wearing something like that. I think women have this problem pretty often, but you're not going to really walk out the door with a whole body garment like that as a man.
Not traditionally.
No. Maybe in the future.
We like the future.
I had a dream I went outside the other day. I had a dream I went outside.
Let me get my notebook. Hold on.
I had a dream I went outside in a kilt, and it's still fucking me up.
Was it the dream itself, or the sensation of how much you liked it that fucked you up?
Oh, I already know how much I like it. It was the dream itself.
Okay. I buy this.
I have a Japanese schoolgirl outfit in my closet.
Oh, I
take
know.
out from time to time.
I'm aware.
Yeah. In our closet, our shared closet, of course.
Right.
Our walk-in closet that is bigger than our actual bedroom.
I remember I was on AliExpress and I ordered, Seirafuku. And when it arrived, it was just a Popeye costume. Really,
I can see where the mistake would be made.
Right? And
I actually believe you did this. Is this true?
Of course it's true. It gave me massive body dysphoria that my arms... Dysmorphia. That my arms weren't, the size of barrels.
Did you try eating spinach?
I did about 15 years before this event, and it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I'd recommend spinach.
What is this idea? I mean, I know it's a cartoon, but this idea that eating spinach gives you giant biceps?
Oh, it's just...
Or are they forearms? It gives them giant forearms, that's the thing, right?
Right. It's just another ploy by Big Spinach.
Big Spinach.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And an insidious effort to get children to eat their greens.
Right.
It's like, do you want to be big and strong like Popeye? It's like, fuck no, I don't want to have that elephantitis face and one eye.
Constantly simping for some 3 out of 10 that some fat dude is trying to bang.
I'll say this, the casting of Shelley Duvall as Olive Oil in the live-action Popeye film, particularly inspired.
Yeah, now that you mention it, yeah. I never watched that one, but I can imagine it's not worth watching.
I know Robin Williams was Popeye. I forget who was Bluto.
Yeah, me too.
Andre the Giant.
Yeah, I don't know.
I tell you what,
I don't know.
That guy double parked in our apartment complex one time, and ever since then I've called him Andre the Giant asshole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I know.
I tell that story every opportunity, Well, I'm looking up who played Bluto. It's a musical? What the fuck?
Wow, really?
Yeah. Paul L. Smith, which to me
Who's that?
is like Paul because it's 2 L's.
Paul Smith, yeah.
All right,
you can definitely slur that.
This is just some guy who's dead. I mean, he wasn't dead at the time, but
he's just some guy who's dead. Yeah.
Whatever.
Robin Williams is actually pretty. I mean, aesthetically, he fits. He does the face,
yeah,
funny face well.
And he's supposed to be kind of just schlubby until he eats the spinach, so it fits. And you give him an opportunity to do a silly voice. I mean, he won't do it anymore because
Ooh, what if I ate the spinach? Ooh.
I enjoyed watching clips of him on the Johnny Carson show because he just shows up and Johnny Carson looks both incredibly tired and uncomfortable for the duration of his stay. Because you never know if he's just going to pull a gun on you or something.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen... I mean, I must have seen these at some point, but I'll have to go back and rewatch them on the YouTube.
It's worth.
Yeah. I'll look them up while I'm playing Elder Rings.
Just a grown man hooping and hollering. Robin Williams is the real life Bing Bing Woohoo.
Look, we're barely through this episode.
Oh my god, it's been an hour and 10 minutes.
So we haven't gotten out of the first scene. So Q shows up and he says, "Oh, I've been kicked out of the continuum," right?
Right.
And this scene kind of repeats for 5 or 6 times where Q says it, everyone's like, "I don't believe you." There's some particularly inspired lines from Data as he's running his little sensor around Q. Q he's reading as fully human, he says. And then Troy says, "I am sensing an emotional presence."
the script acknowledges this. Q says, "Oh, is there an echo?" After Data confirms what he just said about being human.
Yeah, but it's more that the lines are just stupid.
They are stupid.
How does that thing distinguish humans from other species? It seems like a very difficult task.
Oh, the tricorder can do literally anything.
Yeah. And think about what the quadcorder could have done.
Right, the quadcorder probably could have harnessed the power of the Q. Not unlike Sunny D.
That is what they said. Harness the power of the Q. I recall this scene had a bit of a mix-up.
Yes, because at one point in this scene, in a back and forth, a heated back and forth between Picard and Q, Q is asserting himself as human, and Picard kind of plays along. Q says something like, "Oh, I'm Q the defenseless, Q the human," and Picard also chimes in. And he's like, "No, Q the liar, Q the misanthrope." And what just kept happening was that the casting director who was on set would hear this and run and grab some extra from the lot and kind of throw him onto the set. It's like, all right, you're the misanthrope, you're the liar, Q these people. And it just, we kept trying to explain it to him. It ruined, I don't know how many takes, but eventually Michael found a copy of the script and explained the spelling of that line.
Right.
Very confusing.
It was confusing. I mean, for a minute I was doubting myself even.
Right. And I felt bad because the extra would show up and I'd be like, "You're not the misanthrope, I'm sorry."
Right, yeah. And you're kind of like just pathetically standing there.
Right.
They have no idea what to do. They're not actors by any stretch of the imagination. So
extra.
Yeah, they're so extra. I mean, they don't really fill a proper role like an actor
or even an actress.
Us. Yeah. Or an actress, yeah, which is a pretty low bar.
Right.
An incredibly low bar. Unless you're Marina Sirtis,
who just keeps getting work somehow.
Yeah. So I like Q and Worf in this episode. They have a few little exchanges. I like the part where Q asks him, "Have you read any good books lately?"
He said, "Have you eaten any good books lately?"
Oh, eaten.
Which is still a good line.
Yeah, that's still good.
What I enjoy is Worf being so not clever and almost and not just unto himself, but in the sense of a television script. He's just frustrated and he grunts at Q, and it's it's realistic to his character.
Yeah,
but there'd be a lot of, I imagine, temptation to just write back and forth quips, which
totally
does not happen, thank God.
Right, yeah. Q gets all of his quips in, and then Worf just tells it. He screams at him.
Right.
which is odd because I don't think I've ever seen Worf yell like that.
You have to realize just how annoying Q is.
Yeah, I suppose so. They put him in the newfangled brig
with its force field and everything.
Yeah, and he falls asleep and he starts rambling about how he fell asleep. It's kind of funny, I guess.
It is kind of funny, but his constant confusion. Oh, my stomach was making noises. What does it mean?
Right.
I lost consciousness. Know this stuff. Right. He's omnipotent. And he still demonstrates that he didn't lose that omnipotency, or at least the knowledge he had beforehand.
Yeah. He still seems to know everything that he knew before. He didn't lose it. Yeah. So I appreciate the trying to. I get hunger maybe. Like, oh, I didn't know this is what it felt like. Right? Yeah. I appreciate them trying to make you sort of a fish out of water here, or having him cope with all this new stuff. But they could have done it in a million ways, and some of it they do.
The ice cream sundae stuff I thought was good.
Yes, that was good. Very strong punchline. Very good. I did not expect them to set it up and knock it down so well.
Yeah, a very effective comedic scene.
It's very comedic.
But it also
where usually it's usually a joke isn't stretched out that far in this show.
No. And it also works from the, I don't know, the world building, not quite world building, but the fleshing out Q in this role. It's effective for that as well.
Yeah.
Because it's not dissonant with his omnipotence to be like, all right, I know people eat these things, but I guess I'm hungry. I'll order fucking 10 of them.
Right. Yeah, he's used to excess. So
Yes.
Right. So yeah, it does work very well. So the reason Q even gets freed is because he's brokered a deal with Picard to help Geordi in engineering figure out this moon falling problem.
Which he does in kind of the Q way.
He does, yeah, and he goes down to engineering. He has the scene where his back is hurt.
Got to get Crusher
Tell
involved.
me, tell me if this bothers you. They never call Crusher down, do they?
Not that I recall, actually. Oh my god.
Right. So the scene starts with Q being surprised. So you can't even say this happened off screen because it starts with Q being surprised about how bad his back hurts suddenly, and then Crusher just shows up.
Do you think that Crusher is also omnipotent?
It's possible. She could be hiding it. She does have the ability to
bring people back from the dead.
She could be godlike. She could be a godlike entity. She's looking particularly hot here today.
I just don't get you anymore. Half the days you're like, oh, Crusher she's not even hot, and the other half of the days you're like, oh, she's hot. I mean, it's kind of an obvious dichotomy, but that's you. You're on both sides of that fence too often.
I am. I don't know. It's sometimes she just looks insanely good, and maybe it's just that time of the month for me.
I'll say this: I think both her hairstyle and facial structure provide plenty of opportunities where shadows cast on her face are very unfavorable. There's a lot of unfavorable lighting for her.
Yes, and if the lighting weren't so flat,
yes.
I think.
Well, actually,
yeah,
I know we're memeing, but she benefits from flat lighting.
She benefits from the flat lighting. Yes. I totally agree with that. Yeah, the shadows can fall. She has very angular features, so
yes.
Shadows on her face can be very harsh, but she is attractive.
Yes. Well, it's on the record. Yeah. I'll agree to that. Got to throw in that past tense, but it's on the record. We're all in agreement. Crusher can get it. Circa 1987.
Yeah. So if you have a time machine, there you go. So I was surprised you can wrap a warp field around a moon. Seems kind of convenient.
It's a large warp field, or a very small moon. But, they play fast and loose of, extend the shields around this, around that.
Yeah. There's a lot of extending.
Yeah. A lot of extending and a lot of separating. Of saucers and shields, the TNG story.
That's good. I like that. I like that a lot. That's going to be our new book. So Data is kind of his liaison, if you will, Q's minder. To the crew and to humanity as a concept. Yes, which is great. It's such a good idea. Yeah. It's a little overt. At one point, Data, I think the exact line is, "You have achieved in disgrace what I have always aspired to." Right. And that's a little on the nose, but it first of all, that's fine, but the entire interaction of the course of the episode plays out very, very satisfyingly. And it has a really great conclusion at the end. It's great. Yeah. It's great. So when you would think, and we all enjoy Data stories, we all enjoy Q stories, and the combination of those two into one narrative arc is not surprisingly great. Right. Definitely agree. Yeah, and it like you said, it develops very well. Narratively, here we have the if we're going in narrative order, we have the Sunday scene. They go to 10 forward and there's the Guinan confrontation again. Right, a masterful little bit of improv. Whoopi stabbing John with a fork. Yeah, wow, that was something. And then she just walked off. That's crazy. I like to think that was the natural result of the nocturnal shooting schedule, which is kind of exactly what we wanted, and there's a reason we ended up using it.
Just
right,
worked.
right. Yeah, no, it's one of the it's one of those things that's never going to happen again. Really, it was just so perfect. Everything aligned so well for this, and I think we all kind of cheered a little bit on the inside when we saw that the fork had drawn blood.
Right. I still have that fork.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
With the stains on it and everything?
Yep, I never washed it, and I've only used it a few times, but it's in my desk upstairs.
Oh, okay.
So if you, I'll show it to you later. I'm surprised you haven't gone over this yet. But
yeah, no, I maybe it's your own personal thing.
Hey, if we can get our next tier in Patreon, I'll post pictures of that fork on Twitter, and if we get 2 tiers up, I'll even record a video of eating salad with that fork.
There we go. You heard it, ensigns. Let's get those subscriptions up, huh?
Yeah, salad a la Q.
Here's a question I have. Why are there waiters when replicators exist?
Excellent question. Deep Space Nine also grapples with this. Quark runs a bar. People walk up and say, "Can I get this?" He says, "Okay." He walks over to the replicator, says that, and then brings it to them.
I mean, I guess I understand wanting to simulate the personal interaction of 20th century dining establishments, but they could literally just have a queue of like a line, not like a character, a queue a queue for the replicator where people go up, order their stuff, and then go sit down at the table or whatever.
I believe in Voyager they have a dedicated chef on the ship. Yeah,
I think they do.
I don't know what the justification is for that. I'm not desperate enough to watch Voyager yet. Well,
we do run into this with TNG where it's like you have these aliens on the ship and they eat like very specific things. Right. You have like an ambassador and you want to make sure he's happy.
Yeah, but it's always like, I'll punch in the genetic structure, the molecular structure of this dish you want to eat, which is always just hand waved away, despite how fucking complicated that sounds.
Right.
So
that's the thing. A lot of the times they don't have that,
but they say that they'll do it. Like they.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true.
Do you think there's someone whose job is just programming the replicators?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's totally its whole a whole industry.
That's what a chef
industry
is.
Insofar as. Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
The future evolves to a point where literally every job is just some nerd at a computer, even the creative ones.
Right. You're just teaching a computer to do what you could be doing.
Right.
That is absolutely what's going to happen too. That's not even a far-fetched observation.
We need to get computers that can captain starships. And then Picard's just fucking around the Readier Room all day.
We could literally just have an autonomous Enterprise, and there would be no characters except the Enterprise.
I like it.
And it interacts with godly beings and talks to them in Majel's voice.
The entire Star Trek franchise collapses until Majel is just doing all of the dialogue.
That's one for the list.
It's a dystopia.
So, meanwhile, the crew is getting scanned by some radiation, and conveniently, for some reason, this radiation completely blows the lighting out, so it makes it look like a bad behind the scenes footage reel.
A bad behind the scenes podcast.
Well, I wonder what that's like.
Who knows? But you're right. It's an odd choice on how to convey that there's a scan going on.
It looks like shit.
It does. Looks like shit. I think it looks like shit.
I think it might look like shit. But yeah. And at the same time, Q is being attacked by some malevolent energy entity.
Right. That's it. I mean, it's malevolent. It's only seeking revenge.
Yeah, it's because he fucked with them one too many times or something. So now that Q's mortal, and this becomes an issue later on, he has certain enemies that are hunting him down. These aliens are the calamarians or something.
Caliphates?
It's something to do with that, because you remember it was supposed to be this giant squid,
Right.
this giant space squid, and obviously it ended up not being that. Dan had rented out for just a day this really impressive laser rig, and he was going to do this sort of like squid entity made entirely of light. And so what would happen is it would approach the Enterprise, and it would kind of just stick its tentacle through the wall and wrap it around Q and start shocking him.
Yeah, we had to leave that one for the Apocrypha.
Right. But yeah, I think Dan was a little pissed off, to put it mildly, when Andre, normal sized Andre, he was our science consultant, he told him that space squids don't actually exist, so we couldn't put it in there. Yeah. And it ended up just being this kind of ball of this nebulous mass of light.
I mean, I can't blame them. Up until now, all of our stuff is aligned with the boundaries of reality. So
yeah, sure.
Wanting to go against that is foolhardy. Yeah. Data saves Q at some point.
Yeah, Data saves Q that first time.
Right.
And then then they have the meeting, like, it's Picard and Data and Q and Riker, and they're like, wondering if the liability of having Q on board is even worth it, because there's going to be people hunting him down, aliens hunting him down. Data sticks up for him. Q is very arrogant and says, "I know you're going to save me anyway."
But then he goes on to sacrifice himself, right?
Yeah, he does. But so before that, Data saves him a second time from while they're trying to put a shield around the moon.
Oh, I forgot that there were two of these.
Yeah, and that's when Data gets fried.
Right. Okay. Then there's the surgery scene.
They once again take him to medical bay for some reason, where Crusher is working on him for some reason. This is never going to stop being weird.
Right.
And she tells everyone else to leave.
Get the engineers out of here.
Right.
This is a medical matter. This man. Quick aside. Data's positronic brain, like that little flap to expose it. Brent had to get special surgery to get that in there, and it's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. I mean, to this day, he's still got it, of course, and if you ask him, he'll take the staple out and show it to you, which I recommend doing. Right. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, if you ever get the chance, it's pretty cool. Like there are buttons on it too that light it up.
Right. It's part of the surgery was having it made to look like it does in the final cut here. So, and the lights are just powered by Brent's force of will. Right.
Yeah, it works out really well. Yeah, really, really cool stuff. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. I mean, we don't see Brent that often anymore, but if I see him across the room at a party, I kind of make like a tipping my hat gesture almost, where I like pull off the flap, and he reciprocates with a chuckle, and inevitably somebody around him is like, what is this?
Right. It's a good party trick for sure.
Yeah. And if there was somebody in desperate need of a good party trick, I would definitely say it was Brent.
Definitely.
I mean, before that, it was just, let me pull up my phone and show you my Curb Your Enthusiasm riff on YouTube. And everybody would just stand around the phone kind of humoring him like a small child.
Right. Lots of fake laughs.
Right. Oh, you misanthrope.
Okay, where are we? So Q at this point, there's a little back and forth. He goes to Picard, he goes to Data. He starts realizing that what Data did was a selfless act, and he's starting to understand the ramifications of that. And he surprisingly decides to take a shuttle out in order to stop the Calamarians from attacking the Enterprise, and so they'll just kill him and go away. And
which represents a significant development for Q.
Yeah, it's great. And of course, Picard tries to get him back every way possible. He tries beaming him. He tries extending the shield, of course. He tries the tractor beam. And it turns out they're all disabled. And why are they disabled? Well, we have another Q.
Corbin Burnson.
Corbin Burnson. This guy, he has this weird habit of always pretending like he was chewing gum.
Yeah, the gum
Remember
guy.
This? Yeah. and he's acting really hard here. I don't think I've seen anyone act this hard on Star Trek,
It's
which is
I
incredible.
I know exactly what happened. You see who the other Q actor is, John. And you're like, I have to match this energy. Can't do an original take on the character.
And that's the thing. Like, he matched it in all the wrong ways. Like, you don't just copy it.
Yeah, you can't just throw your arms around in front of you and expect that to be what endears people to Q.
You wanna hear something really funny?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So you know Star Trek: The Experience?
Yeah.
You know it, right?
No. Is this like a VR thing?
No, it was this attraction at the Hilton Hotel in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Um.
Do you put on like a Klingon mask and pretend to drink blood wine?
I can't really say exactly what goes down there, but I know they used to have conventions there.
Okay.
And so Corbin Burnson made an appearance at the Star Trek Experience.
Tell me nobody recognized
one
him.
year. Even better.
Okay.
There was a contest. I don't know what the contest entailed, but the winner got to eat lunch with Q, John Delancey.
Oh, okay. I'm in.
John Delancey was unable to attend, so the other Q had to go to the lunch. So these people won a lunch with Corbin Burnson. How great is that?
Just how awkward that must have been.
Right.
You know, they go and they sit down, and they're just not ready for this at all. And Corbin Burnson, you know, he's filling in. He doesn't really know either. And after a minute of silence, he's like, "Oh, have you seen L.A. Law?"
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And when you are ready to meet John Delancey, prepare to meet John Delancey, that's a very specific person. Like, you're not just going to lunch for the hell of it. You want to meet John Delancey.
Right.
So to show up and get Corbin Burnson is, I can just imagine the crushing disappointment that those winners must have felt, which is hilarious.
It's a very good story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm into it.
So Corbin Burnson gives other Q his powers back.
All right, you got your powers back.
You got your powers back. Very conveniently. You got your powers back. All right. Q immediately shrinks down the Calamarians and tries to crush them. After which he is reprimanded by the other Q and just blows them away, which also seems very traumatic. And he teleports onto the
Enterprise.
the bridge of the Enterprise with a mariachi band and some fake sexy women, which I don't know if I would be able to pass up.
Well, Frakes, if you didn't have the beard.
Yeah, that was a good line. You weren't like that before the beard. Very meta.
And then he gives the women the Worf.
Yeah. And Worf seems more okay with it for some reason. Here's a good line from Data. The aliens have disappeared. Okay.
Look around you, Data.
Right. Why do they keep doing this? But in any case, Q.
He gives Data the gift of laughter.
He should have been the Joker. Brent should have been the Joker.
I enjoyed the cooldown of from the end of the laughter to the return to Data's neutral face.
Mm-hmm.
Nice little bit of ultimately meaningless physical acting that I enjoyed.
Yeah, I totally agree. So yeah, there's that. No one's really having Q's ostentatious display, celebrating getting his powers back. So they tell him to fuck off. And then the aliens call and say, "Well, Picard, you did it. You stopped the moon from falling." And not only that, but
Picard
perfect.
Spits out his tea and says, "Whoa, what?" You know.
Yeah. And then he's just totally okay with stealing valor.
Right. Well, all in a day's work.
Yeah. I wonder how many times this is going to happen.
What I kind of enjoy is that Q has a very significant arc here, and every single character, except for perhaps Data, refuses to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Nobody says, "Oh, this might be a new Q," or "That's not the Q I know," or whatever. It's just like, that fucking asshole.
Well, you get a little bit of it from Picard at the end, which I think is necessary considering their relationship sort of evolves a little bit going forward.
Does he remark on it?
Yeah, he says perhaps there's some humanity in Q.
I must have missed that. I must have fallen asleep 20 minutes before
and
that
then
line.
Q's head shows up next to him like a devil on his shoulder.
Yes, don't
He's
get
like,
used to it.
Don't count on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, you're right. Fair enough.
Yeah, and then that's the end of the episode. They little reference at the end here. The space station they embark toward at the end is called Nagala 4, right? And this is just a little piece of trivia for the fans who may not know it, but Nagala 4 was actually a planet that Gene, he wanted to use this at multiple different junctures as TNG was getting off the ground. I think its first use was that actually it was going to be Geordi's home planet.
Right.
Now, obviously, it's a space station. The name got repurposed, but it's been floating around for a while, or it had been.
Yeah, we kind of have this encyclopedia depository of concepts and names and such.
Yeah. You got to draw from that well.
Every so often, you pull from it.
Yeah.
Overall,
and that's it.
Pretty good episode.
Good episode. Yeah, it's a fun one too. So that's good.
Yeah, I think very often episodes regarded as higher level are seen as such because of their subject matter being serious, or their science fiction concepts being kind of heady. But it's rare for episodes that are more fun or just a good time or silly or humorous to be seen in all that much of a positive light.
Yeah, definitely.
But this one gets there.
Yeah, it totally does. And it actually has something to say and something to do with its established characters. Something that sort of evolves them, even if just a little bit, which is great. It's between like a 4 and a 5 out of 5, really.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
A lot of saucer
Really
steps.
A lot of saucer subs for this one.
It held up despite the amount of times I've seen it, which is I think is a good indicator of how much I enjoy that episode.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, you got your
right.
cue back.
Yeah. So, here's my question for you this week.
Is the answer Corbin Burnson?
All right, let me get another one. The planet that the aliens were dealing with was on. It was called Breel 4, right?
Yeah.
So a Breel 4 scientist costume was auctioned off. Of course, this comes from Memory Alpha, our
good friends,
deep lovers. Memory Alpha. A Breel 4 scientist costume was auctioned off in the It's a Wrap sale and auction. The tag mistakenly states that it was for portraying a what? Which is an understandable mix-up in this episode. Well, it's sort of understandable.
It's not the Calamarian, is it?
It is.
There we go.
Yes, it was. Its tag called a costume for the Calamarian scientist. I'm sorry, it's Calamarian. I knew it wasn't Calamarian. A little too on the nose.
We just wanted it to be Calamarian.
Yeah. we had to switch the position of the I and the A once the original concept fell through.
But that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Someone was not paying it. It's funny how you even make that mistake. You know enough about the episode to know what aliens show up, but you don't know which alien is which.
Oh well. But I want to talk to the person who won that costume, see if I can rent it out for personal use.
Yeah, I actually do wonder.
I do wonder.
I do.
Well,
I do.
Sounds like that's going to be it for this episode of the Readier Room. Want to thank our sponsors, Pep Boys, home of the 3-minute oil change, and Denny's, home of Tauntaun Men. And if you go to either of those fine establishments, drop the keyword Readier. They'll be sure to give you a 15% discount on whatever it is you buy or order. And keep coming back next week, where we're going to have another episode of The Next Generation. This one with slightly less Q levels, but it'll be TNG nonetheless. Until then, everybody, spay and neuter your pets, hug your friends, and please, stay ready.
The troublesome little man-child.
I stand before you defrocked, condemned to be a member of this lowest of species.
Thank you, Ensign. Engage.
Do you consider yourself superior to us?
Should have told him to mind his own damn business.
But I stroked the beard thusly. Do I not appear more intellectual?
Computer, freeze program.
Have you never dreamed of climbing inside the bottle?